Good morning, church. It's Pastor Mike. This Monday after Easter, I'm beginning something with these devotions of going through the book of Acts and seeing after the story of Jesus' life and after his resurrection, what does the church look like? What does God call the church to do? Even looking back to that early church, the first church, and the questions that they were struggling with and seeking to answer. I was looking at Acts chapter 1 this morning, and I noticed that same energy and that same passion that the disciples had during Jesus' ministry is still there. The very beginning of Acts chapter 1 tells us that Jesus was appearing to his disciples over a period of 40 days. He was showing up, he was eating with them, talking and teaching. He was continuing to pour into them, knowing that they were going to be the church in just a few short weeks. And they ask Jesus, they gather around him and they ask, verse 6 tells us, Lord, are you at this time going to restore the kingdom of Israel? It's the same question that they had wondered about while Jesus was living during his earthly ministry. They thought, if he's the Messiah, he's going to restore Israel. He's going to show up with might and with power and set things right. And obviously, the cross, the crucifixion, and Easter were this upset to that plan. But now that Jesus is resurrected, now that he is made in this imperishable body, they think if ever there was a time, this is it. Is now the moment where we're going to finally be able to kick Rome out of Israel and reestablish this kingdom? And Jesus tells them about a different kind of power. He says it's not for you to know the times and dates that the Father set by his own authority. He says, you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you. And I imagine the disciples looking at each other, nudging each other with the elbows, thinking, finally, we're going to be the superheroes and the battlers and the folks that kick Rome out. How great is this going to be? But the power that Jesus promises through the Holy Spirit isn't the power to beat up all the bullies and the enemies in our world. Instead, that power, Jesus says, will allow them and us to be witnesses. Jesus says, you disciples, when the Holy Spirit comes upon you and you receive its power, you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in all of Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. To be a witness for Christ takes power. To share the story of what God has done takes power. It takes the power of courage and confidence. It takes the power of faith and trust, knowing that what God has said is true. It takes power to live the life that God has called us to live in this world. It's not a power that we can show off on the battlefield. It's not a power that beats others down. Instead, it's the same power that Jesus showed in his life. The power to call others up, to raise an awareness of what God is doing in the world, and to invite others to join into that wonderful realization. That is the power that God promises you and me. He promised it to these disciples as Jesus was meeting with them. So hold on to that power, the power of the Holy Spirit, the power of your testimony and your truth, and how it relates to the grand work that God is doing in the world all around us. May this week be a week that we maybe recommit ourselves to living in this resurrection power, this resurrected life, and this new power of the Holy Spirit in the world. God bless you today.